Hi everybody, this is Pete Delatorre, and welcome to the first Camacol Talk. I am the host of this program and the CEO of Camacol Doral. This will be a weekly show that will feature everything to do with Camacol, its members, the business community, everything that's happening here locally and internationally. Today we open up with two distinguished guests. Our first guest will be the mayor of Miami-Dade County, Daniella Levine, Cava. And our second guest will be Joe Chi, the president of Camacol. All right, it's my pleasure to bring on the very first guest to the very first Camacol Talk, our distinguished new Miami-Dade County mayor. Of course, we have with us here today, Daniella Levine, Cava. Mayor, how are you doing today?
I am doing very well. You see, I'm wearing my green for good luck. And I'm doing great. I just had my first dose of the vaccine, and I'm feeling very, very hopeful for the future.
Well, you look very energetic and very happy, so that's a good sign, right? That's always a positive thing there. There's much for us to talk about here today, and so much happening in the county, and you've been on board a few months now, and I'm sure you've been just bombarded with so much going on and so many important topics and projects. The first question I'd like to ask of you is, what are your key short-term initiatives as it relates to the business community in Miami-Dade County?
Well, look, we are here addressing lives and livelihoods. We've got to get our health on track and our economy. Clearly, we have taken a dive from this pandemic, and we need to come back stronger than ever, and that is my plan. So we are going to look a lot different when we emerge from this pandemic. We are going to go forward, not backwards. We know we have to help our small businesses that really have struggled to get along here in the hospitality sector. Many of them holding on by a shoestring, and we need to make sure that they come back strong for our unique lifestyle, for our unique cultural assets. But we also are using this as an opportunity to build new economy. We have obviously much more virtual. We've got much more global. We've always been global, but all the more so as we're global, as we're virtual, we can be more global. We also have this resurgence of interest in tech and fintech here. Let's not forget trade. We've upped our cargo while we've reduced our people tourism. We've increased our goods and services exportation and importation. So these are really critical. So we're focusing in our Renew 305, our economic renewal program, on bringing in the new, building back the old, and also the pipeline for jobs and our small business and innovation economy, because we are already one of the most inventive places on the planet, and we want to make sure that we rebuild in a way that's equitable. So my Office of Equity and Inclusion is doubling down to make sure that we bring not just county government, but our anchor institutions like our universities, our hospitals, our big businesses. We want them to really pay attention to the local talent pipeline, and we will help to reskill, upskill people for those jobs.
Now, I know you've been a county commissioner prior to taking on the helms of mayor, and have been boots to the ground in your district, and have been able to see how the business community has responded, and what have you been hearing directly from the small business owner during the time, obviously as commissioner, but as mayor now? What kind of feedback are you getting from them?
Yes.
Are they seeing that there is some movement, some positive things happening, or do you feel there's still a lot of concern in the marketplace?
Yeah. So as commissioner, I did create an accelerator to move emerging businesses to grow and create more jobs and have access to capital, marketing, and so on. Very successful. And our director, Danilo Vargas, has come on board now to my mayor's office as lead countywide on small business growth and development. So he'll be working with our small business enterprise within county government to promote county contracts for small businesses, but also in partnership with the FIU Innovation Economic Office, Anna Etienne. So we're going to be working creatively across the board to keep these small businesses alive, but also to scale up. Some of that is helping them to adapt to the virtual, to the outdoor. But we know many businesses have shuttered, and we know many have lost their life savings through these business downturns. So we have to help people come back in new roles, and that's a big part of it too. So a lot of mentoring, a lot of linking to the existing small business support organizations, and bringing new capital in. We're going to be getting $500 million again from the American Rescue Plan. Mm-hmm. And a core part of that will be focusing on economic development. So we're going to be looking to develop a very robust plan that we can use over the next 4 years to help our businesses come back, and as well infrastructure. This is a great time in an economic downturn, investing in the future, more of the transit, the housing, the water and sewer infrastructure. All of those infrastructure opportunities create good jobs, and we're going to be accelerating those projects.
How can an organization as ours, Camacol Doral, how can we help? How can we be of support to your initiatives? As a business organization that we are, what role can we take to help accelerate, as you say, these initiatives?
Well, you have your fingers on the pulse. You know the business community closely in the neighborhoods that you serve. So we want you to be part of that pipeline to get people into these programs. CareerSource has already invested $2 million, for example, in the upskilling and reskilling. We want your help getting people into those programs, and to access the capital and access opportunities to have the contracts and subcontracts on these infrastructure projects. So we need you as our ambassadors, and we also need your ideas. So, we can't do this in a vacuum. I'm a lawyer and a social worker. I'm not a for-profit business owner, and I don't know firsthand what everybody is experiencing. So we need you to help advise us and guide us as we move forward.
Absolutely. Camacol is taking a very serious movement regarding corporate social responsibility. We believe that this is, effective and sustainable long-term economic development is when the business community and the residents come together and work hand in hand. And I know this is something that's very, very important to you personally, and it's part of your agenda as the mayor. That's another area that we believe we can help and support. And if you had a crystal ball and it's a year from now, and we're talking about corporate social responsibility, what would you love to see a year from now?
I love that question, and I actually do have a crystal ball. It's over on that shelf, so I'd have to get up and show it to you, but I do have it and consult it regularly. I think that this is a great opportunity. Thank you, Joe. I think this is a great opportunity for people to say, how can we build back in a more equitable way? We have our Office of Equity and Inclusion. Jason Smith is our director. We have other fantastic people working alongside him. And we're going to set goals within county government to create more opportunity, equity, inclusive goals for procurement, contracting, employment, promotion. And we need our community sector employers to do the same. There's quite a number of initiatives focused on equity and inclusion across the business and public sectors, and we want to join hands and set some community-wide goals and then see what each of us can do to achieve it. Definitely communities that have been left behind, In any recession, unfortunately, those at the top consolidate and do better, and those in the middle do worse.
Yep,
So
yep.
we need to be very deliberate to change that. And I think that corporate social responsibility is the way. That's in terms of all the divides: racial, ethnic, religious, gender, sex orientation, disability issues. We want to be sure that we are reaching out inclusively to every sector of our society to create those opportunities, those pipelines. Just this past week, I held a roundtable with a group of Miami-Dade County representatives and a Black-owned firm called Indelible Solutions that we were able to provide a subcontract on one of the federal grant programs on emergency rental assistance. So this was something that they would not have otherwise been part of it. They're not longstanding contractors with the county, but we learned about their expertise, their readiness, their willingness. And with this new program, we were able to bring them into the fold. And that's the kind of thing that we want to do. We want to find these businesses that have the capacity. They've not been given the chance. They're coming in as a subcontractor, and hopefully that means they'll be in a better position to compete in the future for full contracts. So this is what we can do together, and the Corporate Social Responsibility Initiative can help. And excuse me, that's on the economic side. Let's talk about the environmental side.
Right.
We're in such a tizzy trying to rebuild our economy. We cannot forget that our environment is our economy. It's the health of Biscayne Bay. It's the access to fresh water. It's the fact that we can have fish and ocean sports and the national parks. These are all things that are our natural treasures, but we have to care for them. We have to deal with our pollution, with our carbon production. Mm-hmm. And that is part of our corporate social responsibility, not just economic opportunity, but environmental stewardship.
As you're sharing that, I'm thinking it's where we live. Where it's the air we breathe, and it's the city, the towns that we're living in. I wrote down a couple of words that I think I'm sure you know this, and your staff knows this, and everyone. The keys to everything we've discussed today is really based on effective communications and engagement. We need to constantly make sure the communication, the message is clear, it's consistent, and that we have the purpose to engage and continue to do that, because I think the more that we can focus on that, the better we're going to see our plans come to fruition, and not be frustrated a year from now and see that okay, these are great ideas, but what happened or what didn't happen. So I will promise you, from Camacol's perspective, that's going to be a big part of what we want to do to support you in your efforts.
Well, you are great at engagement. Camacol does so many things. You not only help the business community, you help the community with all kinds of drives and initiatives to provide food and holiday festivities and cultural, everything possible to enrich the community as well as to build the business, because all these things are interrelated, and you're a very caring business group. I think the not only engagement but empathy. I launched with my State of the County address the 4 E's of my administration: environment, economy, equity, and engagement. So I'm so happy that you bring up the engagement topic, and I will be building the most engaged administration that there ever was. Thrive 305, we did the survey, 27,000 people weighed in. We're going out in mid-April with civic conversations to share what we've learned and get further feedback, and this will shape my agenda. So it's all about this ongoing engagement. And finally, E for empathy, which is when you build relationships. Engagement builds relationships. Absolutely. And that is when we really care for each other and make sure that we're working together for the greater good.
Mayor, I want to thank you on behalf of Camacol for taking time to be with us today. Thank you for being our lead special guest as we launch Camacol Talk. And again, we want to continue the communication line and make sure that we are working hand in hand for the betterment of the county, its businesses, and its residents. So thank you very much for taking time in your busy schedule.
It's a great honor and privilege, and I'm here for you. Together, we will bring this community back better than ever. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. Bye bye. Right, we want to thank the mayor for some great information and insights on what her vision is for Miami-Dade County. And at some point in the future, we will bring her back to this program. Now, what I want to do is introduce our second guest for this launch of Camacol Talk, the president of Camacol, Joe Chi. Joe, how are you doing there today?
Yes, great. Fine and dandy. How are you, Pete?
Doing well, and every time I ask you how you're doing, you always tell me things are fantastic. That's why it's so good to be around. You're so positive. The energy's great. There's so much to talk about regarding Camacol and all the wonderful things that have been going on recently in the move to serve the West Dade community and the business. But before we do that, if you can share with us a little bit more about what Camacol is really about, which I think is very unique and exciting.
Yes, Pete. Camacol is an organization which is not a usual, what we know as a chamber of commerce, because we're really a community-based organization that represents businesses as well. Like the mayor had said a little earlier, Mayor Levine Cava from the county, she had mentioned that Camacol is a caring organization. It's an empathetic organization. And that's been our tradition for a very, very long time. With regards, I mean, not only do we handle business advocacy, but we also have cultural portions, and then we also have programs which help the underprivileged. We're also in a partnership with the Career Source South Florida, which is part of the Department of Labor, and we also help not only the employers but the employees as well.
How has Camacol navigated through the pandemic?
Camacol, being an international organization, we have our footprint in practically every part of the globe. Although not only all throughout Latin America and the United States and North America and the Caribbean, but also towards Europe as well as Asia. We saw this pandemic moving towards us, and by the time I got to Europe, I actually have family in Italy, in Milan. And they told me, hey, this is serious. You guys have to get prepared. So at that point, I sounded the alarm at Camacol. We started switching our ways of operating. We started changing our structure, and we were able to operate quite successfully because of that. Even though at the beginning we did lose, I would say like 80-90% of our traditional funding.
And I think all organizations like Camacol have gone through that experience. The traditional model of running business organizations and chambers obviously didn't work anymore, and probably will not work moving forward. Even though little by little people are starting to meet more face to face, there's going to still be that element of change that is going to be with us permanently. And we, as Camacol, and as you just mentioned now, is to be very adaptable and be able to pivot to what's going on. And I know that Camacol hosted a series of Zoom calls and webinars and in the last several months of the pandemic, yet doing it in such a way that is very specific and relevant, as opposed to just throwing something together to say we're doing a Zoom call. I think that's an important fact of that. How did the decision to roll out that programming, how did that come to be? I mean, was it based on internal meetings with the board? Was it feedback from members? How did you develop that type of programming that really has meant something important?
At the beginning of the pandemic, what we did was we got the board together. We basically, like I said, we sounded the alarm and we started taking in constructive advice. One of the pieces of advice that came from the board was for us to remain engaged to everything that was going on, no matter what, because back then, as you probably know and remember, there was a lot of confusion.
Yep.
There was a lot of misinformation and a lot of information which was erroneously given out which we maybe a lot of people thought was true. But at the
Yes.
same time, what Camacol did was not only did they engage, but they also engaged directly with the county government. We became part of the then mayor's COVID-19 task force and also the recovery team. We logged, I would say, at least 200 hours of meetings with the county and with the different municipalities in order to be able to navigate through this crisis as well as possible, not only for ourselves but for our constituency, which are the businesses and the community in general.
Um, Talking about pivot, there has been a movement the last several years to make Miami more of a tech hub. There's been, through the Emerge Americas of the world and others, we know that the mayor of Miami is working on some things now with Silicon Valley. But I know that Camacol has always been on the forefront of technology, and now it's more important than ever. Can you share a little bit about some of the ideas, the objectives, the vision that Camacol has in terms of technology specifically for Miami?
Yes, just before the pandemic started, we actually started a technology committee, which is chaired by Jose Barletta, whom you know. And we got together and we started basically surveying what was happening. We saw Mayor Francis Suarez with his efforts to bring in Silicon Valley. We saw other local players who have also have other technological efforts going on. For example, like Emerge, Manny Medina and his Terra efforts, and things coming out of Florida International University with regards to cybersecurity, and Miami-Dade College, which is another one of our partners under the Goldman Sachs 10,000 business programs. They themselves have also stepped up to the plate. So we looked at this whole situation and we said, okay, what unique qualities does Camacol have to contribute to this whole effort? We see that everyone is bringing in tech from everywhere, tech coming from Silicon Valley, California, tech coming from the north, and tech being grown here. So we said, okay, Camacol is the Latin Chamber of Commerce of the United States of America. And we have connections throughout all of Latin America and the Caribbean. So we decided that we are going to connect Latin American and Caribbean efforts at technology to the United States efforts here in Miami, and to create here in Miami a hub for technology, where technology from different places, even from Europe itself, we're dealing with Spain, we're dealing with United Kingdom, we're dealing with Germany and France, to bring them together in order so that they converge here in Miami. And as a result of that, in May or June of this year, we will be holding the Latin American or the Ibero-American conference or Congress for Technology and Innovation, where we will start bringing all this together and combine it with all the other technological efforts which are going on here in Miami, which are, of course, emanating from other places. And, of course, create here in Miami a center. We're looking at a center, which is the Technological High-Tech Center and Innovation of the Americas. So we'd like to actually start that effort, and we believe that Miami can become the center or the locus of interaction of technologies from the whole hemisphere, as well as from Europe and perhaps other places in the future.
I think it's just a natural road to take, especially because of the pandemic and everyone getting behind their computers and working from home, and issues like cybersecurity have taken on a whole different meaning, and the video conferencing, and just really not just using technology, but using it in an effective way that actually complements everything else that's going on there. So it's going to be very interesting to find out how this all pans out, how it all develops. especially in the coming months. And, as we get updates, obviously, Joe, we'll bring you back to Camacol Talk and, update our viewers as to what is happening here. To wrap up our conversation today, I wanted to touch very briefly what's happening on the international side. I know you've mentioned it already here, but any specific projects that are in play right now as it relates to international business and Camacol?
One of the cues that we take is, at Camacol is especially what the government is doing. Because you have to understand that although business is a very strong force, of course, a lot of the policies by which business operates are actually formed by the governmental side. And by looking at the governmental side, with the new president coming in, President Biden, he actually started concentrating basically in the Northern Triangle, Central America, in order to try to be able to uplift those economies in such a way that massive immigration that you see, that chaos that you see at the border nowadays is somehow improved or ameliorated. And then following that, since Camacol already has long time established relationships in those areas, one of the things that Camacol decided to do is we came up with a plan called Converge Americas. This started because back in the early 2000s, they approved, if you remember, they approved the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, which later under President Trump became a USMCA. This was a very, very successful program, which created trillions and trillions of dollars of trade and wealth between the three countries of Canada, United States, and Mexico. As you know, nowadays, there isn't really that much migration coming in from Mexico, because through this program, they have been able to reinvigorate their economies, reestablish their job sites, reestablish their factories, so there is less of a need for them to do that. What we propose at Converge Americas is to actually start linking, instead of trying to put everything together in a haphazardous manner, like they did back a long time ago in 2005 with the Free Trade Area Americas, which did not succeed. What we are trying to do now is we are trying to start linking and harmonizing the existing free trade agreements within the American continent. For example, you have CAFTA-BR, which is the Central American Free Trade Agreement in Dominican Republic. One of the things we would like to do is start linking NAFTA or USMCA with that agreement. And this way, by linking agreements and harmonizing trade, we will be able to stimulate economic recovery, investment, industrial recapacitation, and at the same time, be able to create sustainable economies in those areas, so that people find less and less of an incentive to leave their countries in order to look for better economic opportunities. That would be the first part of our chapter, of our efforts. The rest of our efforts will be actually linking with the other trade pacts. For example, the Andean Community, and after that, Mercosur, and of course, CARICOM, which is the trade pact of the Caribbean. By unifying trade pacts, I believe you already have structure there, you already have infrastructure there, which is much easier to deal with. So we have put together a plan, which is actually on our website, and which we are presenting to the the federal government at this time, to President Biden, to his Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken. And hopefully, for all of our sakes, we're able to do this, and at the same time, increase commerce for all our businesses, and at the same time, help on the societal level to our communities in the Americas.
Well, this is just a sampling of what Camacol is doing and has done for close to 60 years now, and this is a great time for our viewers that are business owners or business professionals to look into Camacol as a resource and to become a member. because the offerings and the value is very, very substantial. And we're very happy with that. On a future conversation, Joe, we're going to get a little bit more about Camacol's move west. And we'll talk more about the initiatives and Camacol Doral and things like that, because that deserves a little bit more conversation. But again, on behalf of the viewers, I want to thank you for taking time. I know you have a very, very busy schedule to be with us here today in the launch of this new special program that we're going to be doing weekly. So thank you very much for helping us launch Camacol Talk.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been a privilege to be interviewed by you.
Have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye. All right. This closes our very first Camacol Talk, our launch. Thank you so much for being here today. I want to thank our two guests, Mayor Levine Cava from Miami-Dade County and Joe Chi, President of Camacol. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn for all the latest information on Camacol and Camacol Doral. Take care.